As you hear about the global food shortage and things like that, this one crop, single one crop, could be a game changer for your gardens that you need to be growing. And we're going to talk about today from a sustainable, nutritious, awesome garden staple that we use here in the South. You need to be growing it. Starts right now. Good morning. Welcome to themacs. It's time to do some chores, get some animals fed, and enjoy this beautiful day. The almighty sweet potato. We love potatoes. If you remember us doing a video on the 4 crops, survival crops for our gardens, that was not one of them because we wanted to devote a whole video to this one crop. In the South especially, I gotta feed the rabbits, so we're gonna go feed the rabbits as we're talking. It is so easy to grow sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes grow in a soil that doesn't have to be perfect. Unlike a regular potato where it needs to be a little on the acidic side, a little bit more neutral, sweet potatoes pretty much can grow in just about everything other than rock hard clay. Not that some clay is bad, but you don't want it to be completely rocky soil. However, they grow pretty low maintenance. Rabbits are fed, now chickens. What we have found out with sweet potatoes is traditionally, as long as we have a soil that has somewhat nutritious topsoil or somewhat nutritious compost going on it, we tend to not even feed. Again, we're using our rabbits, we're using our chickens, but as in having to buy fertilizers, it's really not a necessity. If you're not raising rabbits or chickens, you can still make your own compost by taking cardboard, newspapers that are biodegradable but also didn't have a lot of writing on them. Mix them with leaves, mix them with some dirt, and voila, even some nitrogen and carbon. So you're wanting to balance it out with even some banana peels and things like that. Just don't put meat in it or dairy or anything like that. I digress. But you can make your own topsoil or your own compost. So there's no really cost in it. Once you start your sweet potatoes, you have a sweet potato and then they make their slips. The slips are the ivy that grows off of them, and that ivy that's growing is growing the sweet potatoes underneath. Now, we'll talk about the nutritional benefit in just a second. But again, going back to growing a sweet potato, they don't need a lot of space. Right after we get done with these potatoes and these squash, and there's an empty bed over there, we will probably start our slips right there. They do need warm soil, and they do grow better in the warmer climates. Not saying you can't grow them in cooler climates, but I would say definitely if you're in, 7 and 8, especially in 9, you can really grow them proficiently. You could be very successful with this crop. Why do I say sweet potatoes are a game changer and something that you need to be growing? Last scoop for the chickens. Making eggs and compost. Now we have some sweet potatoes started. These are the kind of what we call junk sweet potatoes. So we grow several beds of sweet potatoes. Of course, the big beautiful ones is the ones we're eating, we're baking, and we're enjoying in the home. However, some of the ones that are like this that you can eat and you can cut up, but look at that root system and see how it's making its own slip. That root system, slip, you're taking those old potatoes and now you are gonna make a whole wide array of new plantings. Now this was a monster here, but we decided because it was already growing slips, we were gonna make more sweet potatoes out of it. So this is how you grow them. You never have to buy sweet potatoes again, because ultimately when you start growing them, you can provide root system for them, you can provide the slips, and now you are ready to take those slips, plant them outside, and you have got sweet potatoes for the next year. I bought sweet potatoes or sweet potato slips really in the last 3 years, not because we didn't want to. I'll be honest with you. Hold on, let's kick the fan back on. Not because we didn't want to. At first, we really didn't know the best way to grow them or the best way to make those slips come back prolific way. But we realized in South Mississippi is a sweet potato hub. However, you could not find sweet potato slips at any co-op because of the pandemic that was going on at that time a few years back. So we started raising our own slips, doing our own slips, and man, what a game changer, because ultimately now that is a survival crop that not only, we'll talk about the benefits in just a second, but that you don't really have to do anything to other than eat. It's low maintenance, and then you could turn around and utilize The potatoes that may not look as good are the ones that become old, quote unquote old, that you haven't ate after you've cured them. They're going to start sprouting new slips. Or if you're wanting to sprout new slips, you take that sweet potato just like we did, put it in a mason jar, make sure the bottom is off the ground but hanging in the water using toothpicks of some sort, and then putting in a warm sun, and it's going to start making slips on that sweet potato. But first and foremost, not having to buy seeds or not having to buy slips, that's a game changer in itself. It allows you to know that you have the crop. Once you produce the crop, you can keep producing the crop, because with the seed or the potato, then you can make as many slips as you need or want, and you're ready to keep on planting. So again, like we've talked in several other videos now, you plant for what you want now, you plant for what you're preserving now for eating later, off season. And then thirdly, you plant for abundance. And abundance means you want to have enough to then have seeds for next year, or for to make slips for next year. So you may not eat half that bed, because ultimately you want those to plant slips for next year. So making sure you're doing those three things in any survival situation, in any garden situation, that you're taking care of yourself now, eating live, you're preserving second, putting up some, and then third, you're making seeds for next year, or slips for next year, or potatoes for next year, whatever you're choosing to grow. While we're filling up the water for the chickens, this is not what this video is about, but you need to go back and look at how we make elder trees or elder berries. Look at that. Look at those, how they're starting to grow. Now, they won't be ready to harvest for a few more weeks and months, but look at how prolific they're doing. We're planting them right next to the chickens, so its runoff is not all this nitrogen. But look at these beautiful, beautiful elderberries. We make elderberry tea, and then we also talk about it being a superfood. There's several videos, and we'll try to link those somewhere up here as well. But you need to be growing elderberry on your farm too. So easy. A lot of times in the South, it's looked at as a hedge. People cut it down. Gosh, they're so valuable. These usually cost $20 to $30 a pound. So value right here on the farm. And now let's go to what we call the big side of the farm, way over there. That way we can take care of all the other animals. We'll start making our way to the cows, pigs, sheep, and the roosters, and the permaculture pasture. So we've mentioned the way that you can grow them. Very easy. We talked about the soil, that it doesn't have to be that good. And we also talked about how easy and prolific it grows, really with low maintenance. Talked about corn or soybeans, or when we talk about tomatoes, there's a lot of maintenance. They're high maintenance. You have to make sure there's good nitrogen. You have to make sure there's no bugs around. You have to make sure this. Well, sweet potatoes are very low maintenance. So we've also talked about how prolific they are, how they make so many places, and you can grow them anywhere. Now let's talk about eating these bad boys. They are yummy, but let's talk about the benefits to our health. So one way that it's good for us and healthy when we enjoy eating this is not only that it's good and tastes amazing, which it does, it promotes gut health. It is packed full of antioxidants and also soluble fibers. So it helps our guts do what they're supposed to do. Now through that, and I'm gonna say this, and this really goes back to a lot of other foods too, it does help. Studies show that it does prevent cancer. Now, if you're growing holistically any food that's off your farm that you're not putting conventional fertilizers on or do anything to, I honestly believe all that prevents cancer personally, but I digress. Not only does it promote gut health by having high antioxidants, by having soluble fibers in the actual sweet potato that we're eating, it's packed full of vitamin A, vitamin B6, vitamin C, has tons of potassium. It is a very enriched item on the farm. Two other tidbits of the benefits of sweet potatoes. Studies show that it also helps our vision. Also, it lowers blood pressure. So it is very good for people who have high blood pressure, who like to eat carbs and things like that. Well, you need to be putting a sweet potato in your diet for the fibers, but also the fact that it does lower your blood pressure as well. Lastly, before anything, when we talk about eating the sweet potato and all the benefits to eating the sweet potato, the whole thing is edible. So you're not only eating, unlike most things, such as, for instance, corn. As we talked about, this corn, the byproduct is the corn itself. All the greens, we're not just going to go take off and eat. Now, if you're making tamales or you're using them to wrap something, that's different. But I'm talking about, you're not just going to go eat this plant. It's a grass. We're going to turn around and give it to our animals, which are huge and a game changer in itself, like we talked about in the last video. However, with the sweet potato can be ate, of course, but the sweet potato leaves are very good for us. They're very nutritious. There's tons of recipes for sweet potato leaves. To look up those recipes, find ways and means to utilize every piece of food that you have on farm. So not only is the sweet potato valuable to you, the leaves are valuable. Not only can you feed them to your animals, you can eat them yourself. So let's recap right quick so I can finish my chores. They're easy to grow. They're easy to maintain, low maintenance, not a lot of fertilization. Just make sure you put them in a place that they get good sun and warm soil. That's the main key. And they can grow in just about anything, but if you're wanting to balance out your soil or add something to it, add compost. Compost is not something that's expensive. You don't need animals for it. If you have animals, great, you can use rabbit compost and chicken compost and all the stuff that we use, like we talked about in other videos. Secondly, they are prolific. They're gonna give you a ton of them. If you're planting them in a small area, they're gonna grow. That ivy's gonna take over. It's actually pretty. It's actually very pretty. So if we're using it for landscaping or you're putting it in your garden, it's actually absolutely gorgeous. Then you can turn around and have these beautiful sweet potato leaves that you can turn around and eat and harvest and enjoy, but also the sweet potatoes that you're gonna get right out. They're actually fun because the kids enjoy them because they get to dig them up. You never know what you're gonna get, how many you're gonna get. It almost becomes an exhilarating task, unlike picking peas, because picking peas and beans are not fun. And then again, they're healthy for us. They are packed full of vitamins, nutrients, and minerals that we need to promote our eyes and our heart and low blood pressure and all this good stuff. And they even can prevent cancer through studies that they show. And lastly, they are so yummy. You can eat every aspect, every part of the sweet potato. So I hope you enjoyed this video. You need to be adding sweet potatoes to your diet, and then also adding sweet potatoes to your farm, to your gardens, or however you're growing. Remember, everything that you grow is beneficial, and try to grow them as natural as possible and organic as possible, because we're in a time that we need it. When the world tells us that, hey, there's a food shortage coming, we can't go shopping, or we need to buy this, we need to depend on these people, just remember, that won't matter to you if you're growing your own food. Sweet potatoes need to be added. If you like this video, go up here. We'll link one of the other videos that we have. Also, we have a playlist that we will link at the very end of the video about the food shortage and food security, making sure you're taking care of your family, because ultimately, that's one thing me and Misty did not have to worry about with our children, and making sure we're taking care of our farm, because we had piles of food because of all the things that we are trying to practice here at the Max. Thank you guys for watching. God bless. Happy homesteading, y'all.